A nation is not its borders or the boundaries of its landmass. It is an assemblage of diverse people with a common purpose and a shared vision.
Imagine a place, a hub, where young, uprightly mobile professionals are infused with the spirit and character of Nehemiah.
At Nehemiah's Court, we equip individuals, build nations.
Nehemiah's Court is a hub, a hangout, a family, a collection of young individuals, young professionals who have a passion for a better life and above all for a better Nigeria.
In Nehemiah's Court, you feel the love, you feel the warmth, you feel the bond.
I mean, this is home, this is family.
We meet, we discuss, we bring societal involvements to the bare front.
The best place to be is a congregation of people that have like minds.
We build the individual.
The movement that will produce in Nigeria you pray for.
And I believe Nehemiah's Court to be instrumental to that future.
My name is Precious Kenko, aka Kenki Fresh, and I'm a member of Nehemiah's Court.
Come to Nehemiah's Court.
Trust me, you won't be enlisted in this army.
If you're not part of that group, you're missing something.
Join us at Nehemiah's Court.
I'm in.
6:15 is the time.
Welcome to Nehemiah's Court. Join me to welcome on stage Mr. Chude, Jideonwo.
Okay, so I'm supposed to talk about mind games. The more things you accumulate in life, the less people think you need help. And so literally in the house, I feel like I literally have to drop dead before people take you serious the way you say, I'm not feeling well. And one of the biggest criticisms about people not taking mental health seriously is people often say, it's all in your mind. And when they say it, it's supposed to dismiss it because it's all in your mind, which is the weirdest thing because the mind is where all the action is. So if somebody says it's all in your mind, it means that instead of the typical meaning, which is that it's not that serious, it's imaginary. Actually, it's all in your mind means it's scary. It means this problem starts at the foundation of your being. That's exactly what it means. It means that this problem is serious because it's in the person's mind. And if you want to be spiritual about it, we will say, I wrote an article, I have a newsletter called Retail Christianity every day. And one of my pieces recently was, God is my imaginary friend. And I said, there is nothing that exists in the world that didn't first exist in the mind. The earth existed in God's mind first, as the way that humans understand mind, the mind of God. And it was because it first existed in his mind, that's why he could call out the things that were not as if they were. And so when people say, when atheists or agnostics say, you know, you are praying to someone who doesn't exist, it's an imaginary friend. They're like, if our imaginations are what created all these things, technology, bridges, you know, the understanding of everything from our synapses in our brains to atoms, then I really want God to be my imaginary friend. Because he's now seated in the most important part of my being. But those two things are to situate how important the mind is. And I think that we often misunderstand how important the mind is. And in my work over the past few, and you know, one of the reasons why it is difficult, so a friend of mine, Mfon Eko, said she's friends with John Maxwell, I think, the leadership coach. And she said, John Maxwell said something powerful I'm going to come to soon. But before that, you know, the one thing, the reason why we underestimate our minds and the power that our minds have over us, that our minds have been with us from day one. And I need to understand that because it sounds like a facile statement, but it's not. Your mind has been with you before you became aware of it. So as a child, you were aware of your hands and your legs and your nose and your teeth. You were aware of all these realities daily, and you were able to comprehend them and manipulate them as you grew. You were able to comprehend your hand. This is what your hand can do. This is why I should take care of my hand. This is why I must not lose my hand. This is why somebody cannot sleep on my hand. This is why my hand cannot break. This is why I need to brush my teeth. You are fully aware of everything else about you that's physical. But you're unaware of your mind because you take it for granted because you can't see it. You don't even take other things. You don't take your heart for granted because from when you are young, you are taught about, your physical heart. You don't take your blood for granted because you've seen blood spill. You don't take even the things that you don't take your breath for granted because somehow as a child you've lost your breath. Something has made you aware of these things. But you've not paid attention to your mind. And why that becomes important is because your mind has been with you for so long. And the dangerous part of it is that your mind doesn't belong to you alone. So your hand belongs to you alone. Your hand does what you tell your hand to do. Yeah? Your legs do what you tell your legs to do. But how do your messages from your brain, which is where neuroscientists are claiming our minds are now. Previously the image of the mind was this, my mind. So but now we're saying the brain is where all the action is. And so, but how does your hand know what to do? It comes from your mind. Now, how does your mind know what to tell your hand to do? Now, that's where the problem starts. Because your mind isn't just yours. Your mind is constantly an amalgam of everything that you encounter in the world. That means that sometimes you think that you are the one deciding. I don't know if you've watched this amazing Will Smith movie. The one where he was a robber and a magician at the same time. I forget the name. What? Focus. Yeah? And I'm sure it's exaggerated, but there's this whole sense of you want a man to choose a number, in a bet. And you just spent 1 week prepping his mind, just showing him the number 7, 7, 7. He sees 7 when he wakes up in the morning. He sees 7 on the bus. He sees 7 on the jersey. He sees all of these things. And so he thinks that he is making a conscious decision, that he has control over his mind. But at the point it's his mind, but he's not the only one imputing information into the mind. And because he's not conscious of his mind, he's not conscious of the messages that are getting into his mind. Because we're not trained to be conscious of our minds. We're trained to believe that our minds will always be our allies. And our minds are not always our allies. Why? Because they're not fully in our control. A thing cannot be completely your ally if the thing is not completely under your control. That means that many times some people I ask young women, for instance, because they are always very worried about marriage. Marriage, 35 years, time is going. And I say, really? Yeah. So who told you time is going? And it seems like a stupid question because I'm asking something so out of the world. It's like, look, Oga, if you don't have something you are really going to say, just be going. Like time is going. 35. And I'm like, but where is this manual written that says time is going at a particular time? It's, your biological clock. And I like that image. So literally, you are thinking about your body as if it's a clock. Where did that image come from? It didn't come from you. You are not sitting in your house one day and you thought to myself, oh my God, now that I look at my body, it's a biological clock. That's not your original thought. It didn't come from you. It's not something you came from by contemplation, by study, by reading the Bible. It's not something you came from by reflection or meditation. It's something that someone said to you that your mind accepted as a fact. Now, I'm not going to go into the detail of whether that is right or wrong because that's another session entirely. But I'm trying to pinpoint to you how your mind does things without your cooperation. And because it has formed into a thought, you think that the thought is yours. You fight for the proprietary right to the thought. So many times I say I have my best friend. Two things. One thing, of course, when I say my best friend, because my best friend is also my ex-girlfriend. Yeah? And this happens in the society where so many years ago, because sometimes I'm slow. So I met an ex-girlfriend at a wedding for another friend. And she saw me and we hugged and we ate. And so I took a selfie. She was like, don't take it. I'm like, what is it now? So I took the selfie. Thinking it's all fun and games. And I put the selfie on Instagram. I got a call. What are you doing? What game are you playing? What did I do? How can you put, we are no longer together. I didn't know that there was a rule and regulation about post-relationship conduct. This was many years ago. And so I began to ask my friends, like, see what happened? What did I do? They said, you did not know before. And I said, no, what? Are you not supposed, once you are finished, you are gone. You don't spoil her market. But this thing we are laughing at now is this is a real thing that happened. Like, this is the real thing that happened. And it was after that I began to realize, because I had my first ex-girlfriend and second ex-girlfriend. And we were friends, we were best friends. And I never ever thought that there was a post-relationship protocol. I was not aware, I wasn't informed at graduation that there was a post thing. And so I was saying to my best friend last week, and I said, can you imagine if we were told these things before we became friends? If we were aware of these rules and regulations when we broke up? And imagine all the things we've gone through over the past 7 years. Imagine the things you've helped me with. When I went through depression in 2016, she was the one that was there for me. And her boyfriend knew. Or husband now. And imagine if I had known what I was supposed to know as a result of our cooperative arrangement as a species about what happens post-relationship. We wouldn't have this friendship. And I thought, but as simple as this thing is, there are people who are operating under these rules and regulations and are not aware that they're operating under self-imposed rules and regulations. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody who has an ex-girlfriend should be friends with the ex-girlfriend. But I always say that the thing that your mind doesn't tell you is you're not supposed to be against or for anything. You're supposed to think for yourself. You're supposed to take charge of your own mind and make a decision and say, is this a relationship that I should continue based on how it went? Not, this is what you are supposed to do. Give you another mind game. There are some things you are supposed to go through alone. How many of you have said this to somebody before? You know, there's some. Why didn't you tell? You went through that alone. She says, yes. Why didn't you call me? But one. You know, when people want to be deep, they say one. There's some things one must go through alone. And it's supposed to sound deep, Or like one of my friends says, that thing that people say on Instagram, God will not allow me to ask somebody for help who will embarrass me. Like, have you read your Bible lately? The Bible is littered with helpers who first disgraced the person. From Abigail rushing to David and saying, my husband is a useless man. Ignore him. This thing is between me and you. So, it's one of those things that sound deep. But it's a mind game. Or this, and let's go back to this one. There's some things you're supposed to go through alone. And somebody said this to me 2 weeks ago. And I wrote a post about it because I run 2 daily news letters. The other one is called The Daily Vulnerable. And I said, I cannot imagine anything in this life that a person should go through alone. I can't imagine anything. Abortion, rape, sickness, poverty, domestic abuse, sexual abuse. I cannot imagine schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. I cannot imagine anything in this world that comes preloaded with a rule that a person has to go through it alone. Yes. Why does the person have, I'm not saying that the person cannot go through it alone. Because this person, why does the person have to go through it alone? The experience, not the pain, the experience. Childbirth. Why do you have to go through it alone? Okay, but you get what, no, but you get what I mean. I like that. No, I like that, but you get what I mean. I'm talking about the experience. So somebody says, I want to have a child alone. The first time it was difficult. The second time, I don't want to stress anybody. Let the person tell you that they don't want to be stressed. You say, my husband is very sensitive. If he sees blood, he will faint. Let him faint. But this is a very important matter. Do not excuse him from the support that he should give you. Let it be his decision. Or parents, they say, I'm going through something. Why didn't you tell your mother? My mother has gone through so much. I shouldn't tell her. Really? But if that thing doesn't go well, you're going to end up running to that woman. You're going to end up running to that woman. So what exactly are you protecting her from? You're protecting her from helping you to get better so that both of you together can grow as human beings. There are things that we do that we don't really think about. And they call them, motivational speakers call them limiting beliefs. These are limiting beliefs. But there's nothing more powerful there's nothing more dangerous than a belief. Once a thought has calcified into a belief, that means that you have chosen to cooperate with this thought. And then you have acquired the thought as if it were your own. That's why it's a belief. A belief is a thought that has congealed. And there is nothing worse than a belief, a wrong belief. Because ego is tied in, sense of self is tied in, guiding philosophy is tied in. The way you see the world is tied in. I say that your mind and your beliefs are your operating system. And many of us have operating systems. Many years ago, the first time I saw a psychiatrist, not many years ago, this was 2015, the psychiatrist. And she said to me, I was going through some challenges, and she said, what Chude, what do you like doing? I'm like, what do you like doing? I was dealing with loneliness at the time. Very weird thing for me to deal with. Because I run a company with tens of people, and people are always around me, and there's always X this, X that. So it didn't make sense to anybody that I could be in the midst of people and be alone. Deeply, resolutely alone. And she said, okay, so we're going to do an assignment. We're going to have you take a trip for a month alone. This man must be crazy. I said, in Lagos, Nigeria, 20 million people, I'm lonely. So your solution is now go and be lonely. So I did it because she's a psychiatrist. I respected her. She said, so what are you going to keep you? What's going to keep you company? I said, what do you like? I said, I like music. And this is to show you how dangerous your mind is. I like music. So I don't play music in the morning. Take a lot of music along with you. When you're praying in the morning, play some music. Play music for the length of time of the prayer. I'm like, I can't do that. She says, why? She said, why? I said, why? Why? And then I began to process my beliefs that had my congealed thoughts. And it began to be foolish, but I was paying 15,000 a session, so she will hear anything that I have to say. For this 15,000, this 1 hour, she must hear it. I said, now that I think of it, it's because I worry. Listen to this very carefully. And I hope I don't know if it will be profound for you, but it was for me. I worry that if I spend 1 hour listening to music, the music will lose its value. That the more I use a thing, the less enjoyment I will collect from it. And she said, that's what psychiatrists do when they want to sound deep. So, that's interesting. She wrote it down in her paper. And I took that and I thought about it for a long time. I said, even this hypothesis, let's take it as a hypothesis, I'd never tested it. Would my enjoyment of music reduce based on the length of time? And so I went into this vacation with music. And that saved my prayer life. Before then, I couldn't pray for more than 5 minutes. But after that, I prayed for an hour, 2 hours. Well, let me not put people under pressure now. No, not really, not recently. This is like 30 minutes. But I began to pray and I began to play. My life has become defined by music. Because then I found out that there are some things that never finish. Like the enjoyment you get from music. Like love. What I realized was that I had a scarcity mentality. That my basic operating system as a human being was scarcity. I was always afraid. Like I began to think about my entire life. I'd make new friends and I'd be counting down to the day when we would fight. Because in my mind, friends fight eventually. So when the fight comes, I was like, I knew it. I've been waiting for this fight a long time. In fact, sometimes I will precipitate the fight so that we can quickly get to this stage of the relationship and we can move on. And we can laugh about these kinds of things, but all of us have these kinds of experiences in our hearts. It's an operating system. And an operating system becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. How do you know that? Because there are people in the world who don't have that same experience. Any experience in the world that is not universal is not universal. That means that if it doesn't happen to everybody, it doesn't have to happen to you. So when it happens to you, we now begin to find out, from whence did this come? For me, it was simple when I was young. Even now, I'm unlearning it. I asked my friend Umfo, another of my best friends, I said, Umfo never feels broke in her life. And I said, why? I said, because when I was growing up, my father never told me I can't afford it. My father would say, it's not time. I don't have it now. You don't need it. It will come. My mother, but you should be reasonable. We can't afford it. Where are we going to see the money? What kind of a child are you? I love my mother. Me and my mother are like this. So. But that's the kind of mentality I was brought up with. A constant feeling that nothing is enough. A constant feeling that everything is going to expire very soon. And when I began to trace it into the images in my mind, I realized that when I was young, I wasn't poor, but we were not rich, which is sometimes the worst place to be. Just at the edge, you know. I remember once my brother bought me fruit juice for the first time, primary 4. I'm going to share you 2 stories that show you my scarcity mentality and the roots of it. 2 juice. And I was so excited, I put it in my bag. And of course it was hot. So I put it in my bag and I kept it in class. I couldn't drink it out of excitement. And then after break time, somebody said something is leaking from your bag. It had burst. Another image. When I got into Mayflower boarding school, my mother would give me 2 tins of milk for the term. And for the first time, my mother came back and I opened the first tin of milk and I finished it. And I didn't open the second one. For weeks. My mother came to visit me 4 weeks after. 4 weeks after. I said, how are you? How are your provisions? Have finished? I said, no, I still have plenty. So you still have 2 tins of milk for us? I said, yes. He said, and I said, yes, no, I have 1. No, he said, the tins of milk have lasted. I said, no, I've not opened the second one. He said, why? Because I don't know when the second one is coming. When a new one is coming. So I want to conserve this as much. The foolishness of it is that it didn't occur to me that this thing will finish eventually. Even if you keep this milk till the end of time, at some point it will finish. But that's not what your mind does to you. Your mind doesn't make rational cases to you. Your mind makes a compelling case to you. It's not a rational case. And why does your mind make it to you? Because your mind knows you. Your mind has been with you every day of your life, including the times you were not conscious of your mind. Your mind has made a compelling case about scarcity and has aggregated compelling evidence why you were not watching as to why you are ugly. It has compelled it. And one of my favorites, I think it was Maya Angelou that said it to Brené Brown. If you look for evidence that you are not good enough, you will find it. If you look for evidence that you are not good enough, you will find it. It's a hustle. It's a hustle. It's hustling. Because your mind has already laid the legal case for it. I remember that legal cases are not logical cases. Cases are won based on in America, based on who the jury likes, in Nigeria, based on the judge, does he like the lawyer, is the lawyer. Cases are not won based on, I have the case law alone. They are won based on who is able to make a compelling case for or against, who has the burden of proof, who discharges this burden, how does the person choose to discharge that burden. Your mind constantly makes compelling cases for your worst fears and your worst insecurities. And how do you know that other people go through that same thing and they don't have that same reaction? They don't say, I knew it. I knew it. And I've seen this in relationships from my end and from the other person's end. You see a fantastic human being. Fantastic human being. You didn't break up with this person because there was anything wrong with the person. I know it's because I'm a man. And they say that men lie when men say it's not about you, it's about me. And it's not a lie. But when the woman has heard that 3 times, now maybe the first 2 were liars. But unable to identify which one is truth and which one is a lie, she makes a conclusive case to herself that the problem cannot be these people. Now, that case wasn't made at man 3. Case was made at man 1. Man 2 is a confirmation of already decided case in your mind. Man 3, until the person breaks the thought, not find the man. Until the person breaks the thought, that continues to be the compelling case that the person's mind makes for that person. There is a reason why Proverbs 21 says, guide your with awe. Because out of it, the Bible has been desensitized. So as a manual for living, we cannot connect with it. And so always tell people, forget that there is, leave out the spiritual from the Bible for a while. Assume that Solomon is sitting down here. 1,000 women, done, dusted. Money secured. Power accumulated. After everything, at 64, because they died earlier then, sitting down alone at home. I'm going to come to that his nonsense that he said first. Sitting at home thinking about all the things he has spent his life acquiring. And possibly asking himself, what was driving me to acquire these things? Think about it. Think about that whole passage. My son. It's like, listen, let me tell you something. This life is not like that. This life is not like that. Nothing will never fight for this life. As you see me here, 1,000 women don't pass this house. If to say I guide my heart, if to say I did content with woman 1, I know for need 99. That's how you have to see Solomon talking to you. Because that's how Solomon said it. He said, my son. He was talking one human. He wasn't talking one Holy Spirit to another human being. When Apostle Paul was saying, the Spirit helps us with our weaknesses. He wasn't talking, when Paul existed, Paul is not who we think Paul is now. Paul was a man. The people who were with Paul, they could see him blowing catarrh from his nose. So he was very human to them. So when Paul says, I struggle with my sins, they were not beautifying it. They were looking at him and saying, I think I know this sin this man must be talking about. You know that this man was in Mary's house yesterday. We saw him coming out at 9 p.m. Is that the sin? They were not looking at Paul as a mummified figure in biblical tradition. They were looking at Paul as a human being, saying to them, I'm going through the same things you are going through, and I've begged this God to help me with this thing. The same God I met on the road to Damascus, I've been begging him. I've begged him. And he hasn't answered me. And so since this thing is not, therefore, I will much rather boast in my weakness. He has refused to help me. We might as well embrace this weakness, that the grace of God might rest upon me. You have to think of it like that. Human being to human being. And so when a human being says to you, a human being who has achieved every single thing there is to achieve in the world, says to you that you should guide your heart with all due diligence. And of course, we know that the heart he was speaking about was the mind, because Proverbs 21:2 talks about the thoughts. And in that time, they didn't have the benefit of the neurosciences that we have now to know that the heart, to know the division between heart and mind. They were talking about the mind. He was talking about thought. Because whatever you think determines the decisions that you make. And it's most dangerous because you are unaware. You are unaware of how your mind is controlling you. You are unaware. Your mind is constantly playing games. There is no emotional difficulty that a man has that didn't start from the man's thoughts. There is none. That you are poor. I remember when I was very young, when I was much younger, a child, was 6, 7. We had this lady who was a sales girl in front of the restaurant in front of our house. And she used to irritate me. Why? Because she was so confident. Sales girl. She would tell you, say, Chude, no, don't touch my bucket. I said, why? Because you don't touch my bucket. Who are you? You didn't even go to school. And then, we assume that the more advantages we had over somebody else, the better we are than that person. And so when the person refuses to concede to our insecurities, we want to pour it on the person. We want to help the person identify their own insecurity so we can convert insecurity to insecurity. They say, you didn't go to school, but she was unmoved. Many years after, I realized that, imagine if every poor person had that same concept. Like, it's almost as if my present circumstance doesn't define me. But we all know poor people whose constant post-choice are beg, sir. We even bring it to God. Allah know me. God shall know me, Jesus. It's almost as if God is a wicked God. Shall know me, Jesus, is have mercy on me. It's not even have mercy on me. Pity me, God. Pity me, God. So it's literally that God, think of the song, Pass Me Not My Gentle Savior. So literally a Christian feels like your gentle Savior can see you. Your gentle Savior. Gentle Savior. That means that this is how the Savior is moving. Your gentle Savior can still pass by you. How is he your Savior? How is a person your Savior if the person cannot save? Therefore, but we put ourselves in that position because so it's not God though. God didn't write that song. God didn't write that song. A human being moving from an operating system wrote that song. I'm not saying that song is bad or unuseful because God will meet you wherever you are. But I'm saying if that is the way the person sees God, that's the way the person will approach God. Because Apostle Paul says no man has seen God at any time. What does that mean? That means that we are all creating an image because God is so vast, unsearchable. That means that none of us, even those who have been with him for so long, cannot understand. That means it is whichever part of God we're able to comprehend that we relate with. But what determines the comprehension? Your mind. And your mind is an amalgam of your experiences, your disappointments, your inadequacies, your insecurities, and the people who have been around you since you were a child. Your mind doesn't belong to you alone. That's like the biblical idea of Jesus is that it's almost as if God understood how difficult this challenge was going to be. So he's like Christ in you, not you. Christians, we talk about sin and we miss the point. Because God is looking at you with not with pity, with understanding. And saying the way that you people have been, the way that Adam messed this thing up, people cannot get it. Therefore, I have to deposit myself in you. So that if you are able to see me rather than you, if you are able to see, when you look at yourself, you don't look at yourself. When people say, so I see a lady who's gorgeous, who's beautiful, a little overweight, insecure, you now begin to wonder, how do people who have no hands and legs, how do they find love? How are people who, how was Cobham so confident when he was in Unilag? In Unilag, as my classmate in the Department of Law, that he was moving from relationship. How was he so confident to build his business? How was he so confident to build his talent? It must be that when Cobham looks at himself, he doesn't see what we see. It must be that the image that he sees in his mind is completely different from the image that we see in our mind. And where did the image we see in our minds come from? From all the blind people we had seen who were helpless. That means if somehow we're able to inject Cobhams with this same thoughts, then Cobhams would not have seen himself. So it's almost like God is saying, because I know how your mind can play tricks on you, I want you to see, look into, I'm going to be inside of you. So that when you look at yourself, no matter what physically you can see, when you look into yourself, what you see is complete and shiny as I created it. One of the most powerful preachers of this concept is Abel Damina, who is a favorite of Trump. When you look up, you see Jesus. There is a reason for that symbolism. Because your mind will defeat you. Your mind will confuse you. There has to be something that you look at and remember the son of whom you are or the daughter of whom you are. And because God understands how your mind plays tricks on you, he understands the importance of symbols. So look at Christ. He did this with the children of Israel under Moses. Look at that. Look at that. It's not because I always say to people, I want to assume this is a hermeneutic. This is not, I wasn't there with Jesus, so we're all just interpreting as we go. Anybody that claims that they know exactly what Jesus was thinking, I'm like, well done. Jesus Christ never performed any miracle without taking something physical. He wants to heal a hand, he takes sand. An eye, he takes sand. He wants to feed people, he doesn't conjure it from nothing. He asks, who has something? He wants to wake up Lazarus, drama. Lazarus! Dramatic, just watch this thing, let it come out. He wants to do something. There had to be, and I say, is there a reason why God did it? Is it possible that God was teaching us that it is not magic? And that when God says, I have given you dominion, God is saying, when I come into Jesus as man on the earth, even I must cooperate with the earth to make anything happen. To show you the kind of dominion I have deposited inside you. I wonder if that's what God was trying to say to us. Because it's a consistent pattern. Is it possible that God was trying to symbolize something to the disciples? So that when they go to perform miracles, when they now begin to look at their own selves, they can remember what Jesus Christ did and connect with that symbolism and do greater works than he. I wonder. Because a mind, there's that verse, I think it's Thessalonians. You are transformed by the renewing. And I'm saying that's a fascinating statement. You're not transformed by the renewed mind. You are transformed every day. Because you are a human being in a human suit, God cannot presume to forget that you are human. Let's say people, God cannot forget. It's a, people say, I've committed a sin, oh God, I'm so dirty. I'm like, do you think that he was unaware? You cannot surprise God by manifesting the works of which God already knew when he sent Jesus onto the earth. And so when you're saying, God is saying, because I know you are a human being, one newness is not enough. Because after I finish talking to you, you will go into the world. You will see your mother who says, at 36, mark by me. You are getting too old. He knows that you will, when you leave his presence in the morning, you will encounter the other occupiers of your mind. The downfall driver, the boss that you don't like, the staff that frustrates you. He knows you will find that person. He knows that this process is going to take something from you. And so he's like, that's fine. We will continue to renew the mind. And you'll be transformed from glory to glory. You will never be transformed completely into glory. If not, you're no longer a human being. The moment you have been transformed completely into glory, you have left us alone. Once you have finished transform, you have gone. You transform into transition. As long as we are together, we will continue to be transformed. Somebody asked me, my friends who are not Christians asked me, how can you still believe in Bishop Pastor Adeboye when he says anybody that doesn't pay tithe is going to hell? I said, because him too, his mind is being transformed. It's being renewed. It's being renewed. So, the day I forget that even the greatest pastor will make a mistake one day is the day I project inhumanity to another human being, and then I begin to judge myself with as harsh a standard. Apostle Paul said, let nobody think that they are more than they are. So I read the Bible, it makes me weak. Because I'm like, oh, this thing was in the Bible since. I didn't know that. It's almost like, and that's another part of it, because the way that you see other human beings is the way that you see yourself. Let me explain that to you. If you look at another human being and say, look at how she's so dirty. The day that you now have a son that for some reason is dirty like that person, you begin to be ashamed, because in your own opinion, a person who is like this is less human than you. It's less, that thing that we say, your Bible prays a lot. My mother also prays it. Let me not beg for food. That one is even good. It's okay. You can still manage that one. But there's almost a sense of, let me not be like certain people. Almost like your self-worth is dependent on your feeling that you are better than certain people. So the better you are than them, the more human you are than them. That's why we fear adversity so much, because adversity reduces us. We now become like those people that we said were less human than us. I always say to people, it's better that you imagine yourself as a woman with VVF, no hands, no legs, and learn to love yourself like that. Because when you learn to love yourself like that, that means you've understood what love really is. Then whatever happens to you doesn't change that, because you've seen yourself at your ugliest and you still fell in love with yourself. You've seen yourself at the ugliest and you still fell in love with yourself. You've seen yourself at your poorest. It says, well, imagine the poorest you can be. I've imagined it at once. Imagine the poorest you can be. And imagine yourself still showing forth the goodness of God in that poverty. When you get there, then poverty doesn't scare you anymore. Because you've seen yourself and you say, what's the worst that is going to happen to me? And then you can press forward, leaving behind those insecurities. One of the most powerful things that I think I've ever heard, and I don't know, I'm sure I read it somewhere, because when I wrote it, I'm like, Chude, you're so deep. Chude, this is so deep. So I'm sure it didn't come from me. And said, when you've fallen in love with yourself completely, you have no need to be better or worse than anybody else. People who have both inferiority and superiority complexes have not fallen in love with themselves. Because you can only have a superiority complex in comparison to somebody else. That means that your sense of self came via a comparison. And none of those comparisons belong to you, because everything that you use to compare yourself to another human being is a thing that can be taken away from you. What's the bottom line of this? It's for us to learn to love. It's one of the greatest lessons you're going to learn in your heart. I got this from a lady called Iyala Bazan, but I took it into God's word. Is to see yourself through God's eyes and to love yourself with God's heart. That's the bottom line of this message. Is to see yourself through God's eyes. And I have a sneaking suspicion that that's what Jesus Christ came to teach us on the earth. To say, guys, you've been missing this thing all along. You are wonderfully and beautifully made. Let me show you how you are supposed to be. I have no house. I even have no wife. But still, I am able to move in this world with a confidence that borders on transcendence. I'm able to, he said, my God shall supply all my needs. Why? Because there was a Jesus who showed us that all our needs could be supplied. Matthew 6:25. Do not worry about your body, what you will eat or what you will drink. It's not life more than food. It's Jesus Christ saying, look at me now. The Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Look at me now. Am I less human than these other people who have more than I? It's almost like Jesus is saying, this is how you should be on the earth. This is the model. And I need to show you by being you. So that through his poverty, you can become rich. When somebody says, on your mind, they're telling you that's where the action is. So you ask yourself, I say our constant life on the earth is between mind and spirit. Spirit is who you are, how God created you before the human suit, before the flesh. That's your spirit. Your mind is what you acquired when you came on the earth. And constantly your mind is always trying to tell you that you are less than your spirit. Your mind is constantly trying to convince you that you are less than your spirit. And it is, nobody can, you have to do this for yourself. It's only you that can acknowledge that you are spirit. Those who worship him can only worship him in spirit. It's for you to say, look, I am not what you see. Because you are not even what you see. What neuroscientists teach us now show that you are not even what you see. Your mind is controlling all the research about, what's it called? Spontaneous remissions from cancer, placebo effects. It is to show that we are not the sum of our physical reactions alone. Our physical reactions are determined by already concluded arguments in our minds. Our bodies begin to manifest what our minds have already accepted. And so you begin to think about yourself like that. So don't even spiritualize it. Leave it on a world level. Don't enter Bible yet. What they are teaching us is that we are, all the research about people who, or think about the scientist who just died, Stephen Hawking, I think, who had none of the things that you could use. But still his voice is coming out to do all the things that his voice could do. It's almost like they're teaching us that all the things we thought are important are not as important as the breath that is inside of us. And if you're able to understand that the breath inside of you is the most important thing, then you are not moved by anything else that happens to your human suit. Because I tell people that because the Bible already said it in John 16:33, in this life you will have tribulation. It is a promise. It is assured. You cannot reject it in Jesus' name. You cannot reject it in Jesus' name. So it's like, it is coming. But before it comes, let me remind you of who you are. You are spirit. So when your mind argues against you, remember who you are. And it will be a daily battle. As it goes on, as you begin to be a stronger human being, stronger Christian, you begin to learn how to have more good days. Long stretches. But at the start, it will be a battle. Mind versus spirit. Mind versus spirit. Mind versus spirit. It will be a battle constantly. The Christians that even know, I always joke about Christians that like to manage from God. I warned God this year. I cannot be looking for money then on the day before. Maybe I'm looking for 200,000. The day before, 75,000 will show up. I'll say, God did it. I'm like, I'm not in a covenant with that type of God. You already knew what I was going to need before I asked for it. I don't want to be doing edge of blessing miracles. Daddy, if I need money in August, kindly deliver the money in March. People think I'm kidding, no? Dear God, because I was on my own when you made this promise to me. My Lord shall supply all my needs according to riches in glory. I'm like, let's stop this nonsense. This nonsense of, God did it. It's God. As how did he do it? I was looking for 50,000, but on the day, my boss now dashed me 5,000. God has not yet done it. It has not yet done. Still hold on to him like Jacob held on to him. Have the confidence of saying, Father, this is not you. Because the blessings of God make it rich and added no sorrow. That's it saying, we will battle. Like, Father, you have not yet done it. You are doing it. And this is not how I want it. Do it a match. Because when you do it, let me tell you the reason why as a Christian. Bill Gates doesn't think like that. Dangote doesn't think, oh, I'm going to build a house. Okay, I'm a son, dear. No, the Lord will do it. 5K today, 7K tomorrow. Now, if it happens for you like that, in all situations you give thanks. Be thankful for the outcome, but don't lower your expectation. That's what I'm saying. It's a mind game. It's your mind telling you that you don't deserve. You don't deserve it. So you are almost ready to concede. Immediately one small one comes in. It's in your mind. I listen to the person, how do you do it? You say, no matter what comes your way, you are grateful. But you know that you deserve better. You go back to the throne of grace and demand. Say, Father, I'm thankful for what you have provided. But this is not the agreement. The agreement was for more. The agreement was for more. It's in your mind as well. It's in your mind as well. And the model is Jesus. The model is Jesus. So that's the message for today. That's the message for today. That, one of the worst things I've heard people say is that, no, let's get, what's that word Christians say? Let's get practical here. I'm like, really? What have we been doing since? This life is not a drill, oh. Like, why would we be, like, when the Christian says, let's get practical, I worry about the person's Christianity. Why? Because either you believe this thing that we are doing or you don't. If you don't, no need to lie. People are not in Christians and they are succeeding in the world. Leave this thing. Leave this thing. It's not by force. But if you believe in it, then believe in it. So let's say, let's get practical. You tell somebody, you say to somebody, no, but I can never be rich. You say, no, I can never, whatever, put whatever it is there. You say why? They will give you logical reasons. And when you begin to interrogate many of those reasons, they are all limiting beliefs. But what has happened, their minds, like I said at the beginning, has made a compelling case. If you try to even divorce them from it, they get annoyed with you. Why are they annoyed with you? Because it's almost like somebody who thought they were tied down. And you dare come to tell them that actually nobody tied you down. You had the key. And the person now feels foolish. No, it's not possible. I couldn't have had the key and still been in bondage. It's not. So almost like the person resents you for daring to suggest that this pain was needless. But sometimes when people try to prove their pain to you, they want to show you that no, this thing is real. Okay. Next time you will see me suffer, then you will know that it is real. It's almost like they want to prove that it's logical. It's logical. No, Chude, no, you don't understand my reality. I always joke when poor people say, because we've been on the edge before, when people say, you don't understand my story, and I say, I don't need to. There's nothing peculiar about poverty or wants. Yeah? First and foremost, there's nothing that has come upon man but that which is common to man. They say, you don't know my story, and it's not important to know your story for me to know that you can move from that story to another story. He said, one of these people say, when they say rich kids, they say, you don't know life. And that is such a nonsense talk. He knows life. It's a different life from the one you know. It's not like your life is not more relevant than his life because your life is full of pain. Because when you think like that, when you begin to think that this is the real world, you forget that, but the other people are also living in the real world. It is your portion of the real world. It's one of those things that sound like wisdom, but it's actually not wisdom. It's your mind playing tricks on you. The assignment is to go back home and think about all the things that your mind is playing tricks on you on. I did it many years ago and I still do it because, we are being renewed. Look at all the things that your mind is playing tricks on you on. Write it down. I did a limiting beliefs list long time ago. Old operating system, new operating system. How do I think? How do I want to begin to think? Write it down. Write everything down. Write everything down. A woman who, I'll end with this so we can take questions. Or maybe my time is even finished because I talk too much. And I say this with sensitivity. Think of how many big women were sent out of their husbands' houses, or how many women were killed or disregarded by their fathers because those men thought that women could not lead or become anything in time past. Think about how many kings destroyed how many. I watched this soap opera called Ajoche, which I love. And the king raised down an entire village. Why? Because he wanted a son. And I just thought to myself, think of how many people in ancient times have destroyed their lives, destroyed their families, destroyed communities, villages, just in search of a male son. Before we began to be aware of Angela Merkel, and Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and Hillary Clinton. Think of this powerful king in full control of all the resources of the state, but bound to a mental image that the only way that I'm proven as a real man is if I give birth to a penis, irrespective of if that penis is a vagabond penis or not. Think about the thinking that shows that a boy, no matter how is better than the woman, no matter how privileged she is. Think about the thinking that leads to that. And finally, there's some prayer points that some Christians kill themselves on. I say to people, I jokingly say it, but it's a serious matter. Women pray, women get so depressed in marriages, even when the husband is supportive because they don't have children. I say, why? Because I'm not a woman until I have a child. I mean, really? The sum of your womanhood is reproduction? It can't be. Now, it doesn't mean that if you are blessed with a child, we should not be grateful. Because every good thing and every perfect gift comes from above. But if you don't get a gift cannot reduce you because you do not have it. And so if a woman, it should not steal her joy. Why does the Bible say the joy of the Lord is your strength? Some trust in chariots and horses. Chariots and horses is the things that people can possess. But our faith, our trust is in the Lord. That means that you should have children, of course. Every good gift, you deserve every good thing. But if you don't have it, why would you think that you are less a person? Because you don't have it. And I say to people, I joke, I say, okay, why doesn't she adopt a child? Say, it cannot be like my own. Says who? Where is the research? I'm like, this prayer point. It's a good prayer point, but this prayer point, you can answer it. Father, I want to show your love to a child. You can answer that question, that prayer point today. I donate to 4 orphanages, and supply outstrips demand. If what we really want to do is to show another child love, there are enough children in homes across this country who need the love of mothers. Then you begin to ask yourself, is it possible that the woman thinks that a child will complete her? And if it is, what if that's not the gift that God is going to give her? Is she going to go through her life feeling incomplete when God already made her perfect? James 1:17. Every good gift and every perfect gift comes from above, from Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. That means that the moment anything negative or imperfect comes into your mind, it is not original factory setting. It is not original factory setting. You immediately say, this is not from God. This is my mind, not my spirit. You don't deny it. You don't say, you don't deny it. But you know that you are beyond it. You know that you are beyond it. You know that you are beyond it. You say to yourself, I know who I am. I know who I am. And then you begin to walk in the understanding of who you are. And then when you fail, because you will, the day you forget, because you will forget. The day you forget, because you are made you have the capacity to forget. You pick yourself up quickly, remembering that it is mind versus spirit. And say, my mind has done what my mind does, but then my spirit can overcome. God keep us in Jesus' name.